This program is brought to you by the Kentucky Small Business Development Center in Louisville. We provide the professional expertise, tools, and information necessary to help you make sound business decisions. Thank you to the U.S. Small Business Administration for co-sponsoring our program and to our host organization, the University of Kentucky. Contact us at 502-625-0123 to get started.
Hey, welcome everybody to another Toolkit Tuesday. And today we're going to be talking about minority and women's certifications for your business. Certification is a great way to really drive value to your business and help with sales. And we are so lucky to have a great expert with us today, Vanessa Pennoyer from Go-To Girl. And the name of the company just says it all, because when you need something done, you got to go to Vanessa because she'll get it done for you all the time. So if you are ready to talk about or think about, getting some certifications or even just learning about what's out there and the opportunities available with the different organizations that look for these certifications, Vanessa is the person you need to talk to. And so she's going to share some information with us today on how to get all that done. So Vanessa, welcome today.
Hey, thank you. Hello, everyone.
So, Vanessa, why don't you just go ahead and share your screen and let's jump right in and learn about certification and see what we need to do.
Awesome. All right, so just go ahead and get started.
Let's go ahead and get started. That's what we're here for.
Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. Okay. Here we go. Start with my video.
If you are a minority-owned business, you need to get certified. Vast opportunities are out there as organizations have established supplier diversity spend goals. But how do you navigate all the paperwork? Meet Go-To Girl. We are experts in diversity certification. We are also a business development firm and can help you get a seat at the table. Let's get started today.
Okay.
If you are a minority-owned business,
There we go. All right, so why certification? Small businesses like yours deserves local and statewide contracts, whether it's from the government or Fortune 500 companies. Certification is a tool that we're going to talk about that adds value to your business. And it's really in hopes of targeting organizations, whether it's the state or your local municipality or major corporations that are actually setting aside opportunities, which is called the Supplier Diversity Program. So today, one of our objectives is to explore certification. I am going to share some business development opportunities because it's not enough for you guys just to get a piece of paper, but we also want to be able to at least have some conversations to get you thinking about how to leverage that piece of paper. Typically, I would view some active open solicitations. We won't have time on the platform today, but I do have some links within this workshop so that you guys know how to navigate where some of these opportunities may be found. Some common myths. A lot of times people get like a third-party certification, and we'll talk about that. Sometimes I say a lot of acronyms, so I'll try to spell those out since I don't know truly who my audience is at this point. But WeBank is a Women's Business Enterprise Network Council, and it's a national certification for women-owned businesses. And then there's the National Minority Council, there's NGLCC, which is the chamber for LGBTQ business owners. So a lot of times, and we're going to talk through this a little bit, clients will come to me and I'll say, okay, let's just get everything you're eligible for. And they don't really know who their target client is. They're not real sure who they want to do business with, or they say, I got certified in my home state, and depending on the opportunities and the bid solicitations for what you're targeting, different certifications are going to come in play when you think about your overall strategic direction of how you're going to grow your business. Certification will add my company to bid opportunities. It does put you in a database, in several different databases, but we're going to talk about it's, no one ever gets anything from a database. I've been certified for 5 years now. You'll get notified of things, but it's not where you want to remain when you get certified. You don't want to just stay into a database. Corporations don't care about diversity spend. I will say not enough care, but we're hoping that the advocacy and transparency, especially here in our backyard of Kentucky, that there are organizations like LG&E and Lexington and MSD that are really doing some fantastic things to make sure that women, minority, veterans, and LGBTQ business owners are included in these opportunities. A lot of people don't want to do the trade shows and conferences. They think they're not necessary. But through this presentation, I'm going to tell you that it's essentially a pay to play. It's like any chamber membership that you have, or NABO, or BNI. You pay your fees, you pay your dues, and you have to show up. You have to learn who these people are and be able to network. So, it's not enough to just get a certification and sit back and think it's going to give you instant gratification. So we're going to talk about how to navigate some of that stuff. I put this slide in here because a lot of people think supplier diversity is a new term, and it's not. And so I like to put this history in there that it's been around a long time, and the federal government has really put a big effort. I think their spend is around 23% right now for veteran-owned minority women business owners. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I like to share that it's not new. So it's just a good little piece here. So what is certification? Certification verifies that a business is at least 51% owned, operated, and controlled by these different groups. If this is a group that you identify with, then you have to have the 51%. I do get some referrals in for franchise owners, and depending on the franchise agreement, I have certified franchise owners, and it all comes down to the control. So with most of the certifications are focused on U.S. citizens. However, WeBank, the Women's Business Enterprise Network Council, does certify legal permanent residents. So you are eligible for some types of certifications. It just kind of depends on what your status is. So there are tons and tons of certification designations. If you Googled it, I think there comes up with like 68 or 69 different ones. I kind of focus in on these because it's the most relatable. The disadvantaged business enterprise is something that is with the Department of Transportation. That one's a little, I don't want to say a little difficult to obtain, but it does focus in on your personal net worth. And some people, don't want to get into all that. Obviously, an MBE is Minority Business Enterprise. WBE is the Women Business Enterprise. And then Kentucky's certification is actually a combination of minority and women businesses. Some of these other ones, the SBA, the Hub Zone, like I said, these are just a small portion of all the different things that are out there. So I've just tried to break it down for you guys, at least to get some familiarity with some of these terms. All right, so I talk about NAICS codes. Sometimes this is just a foreign term. When I talk to people, they have no idea what their NAICS codes is. And basically, this is a self-identifying code that identifies what services your business offers. So most companies, I mean, even for myself, I focus in on business support services, administrative consulting. I don't usually label myself as a consultant or a coach, just because when you know, certain industries, when you have a code, it kind of puts you in a different section of other competitors that are in that same service area. So most of the companies I work with, you know, they can have anywhere from 5 to 10 and sometimes even more service offerings. And so if you just put a keyword in there, say you're a CPA, you know, you're going to be doing tax consulting, financial planning, bookkeeping, you know, there's a lot of different things. So when you're going through certification, and we're looking at your tax returns and things like that, it's funny that CPAs aren't even coding tax returns for businesses within the industry of their services. They'll have some blanket, like, I don't know, public service or something. And, you know, once we're going through some of this process, we're like, no, you need to let the government know that this is the code of your business. And it should actually match the code for which you have registered your business with the Secretary of State and with the, you know, local metro or wherever you're paying your taxes. This code's very important. And the more you identify within your services, this code is how companies track their solicitation. So a solicitation, a bid opportunity, a request for proposal, you know, all of these terms mean the same thing. But if they're posting, hey, we need a consultant for these codes. And so it just helps match you within your certification and within your service industry for the opportunities to actually grow your business and be able to bid on some of these different things. So here's just kind of a snapshot. The federal government, you know, with the women-owned businesses, veteran, minority, you know, the state, they're usually only one type of statewide certification. You may have a local, here in Kentucky, we do have Louisville Metro that does the certification. And then as I spoke about, here's the third-party national certifications. Not all organizations are going to be reciprocal. So if you say you got the WeBank certification, and then you're like, hey, I'd like to do business with University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, they may also ask you to get a state certification. So it does sound very confusing, and I hope some of these slides clarify some of these different opportunities, but this is, again, just a snapshot. So when you talk about the fees and the time to process your certification, the federal government, and I'll show you the SAM and sam.gov and beta.sam.gov down here in the bottom left-hand corner. You know, each one of those registrations for federal government usually takes about 2 hours if you're brand new doing it. And that's mostly because people want to keep reading all the FARS code, and, it's the federal government. So you just get very intimidated, like just going through all of the questions. But for most businesses, a lot of the FAR codes are not going to be applicable to you unless, you're into, building bombs or something like that. And then the state, during COVID, they've actually been accepting via email your application and supporting documents. But they do have 120 to 100-day process to review your application after you've submitted your application. So, that can be a 6 to 8 month process. Usually clients will submit it and turn it in and forget about it. And I'll say, no, just put 6 months on your calendar, and, they'll reach out to you and review those. But the good thing is it is good for 3 years. Most of these companies are also doing virtual site visits. And so, so that has speed up the process a lot. Your local and the third party are typically a 30 to 90-day process. So with it being October, it's a very good time to start the application. If your application is in for this year, 2021, they're going to ask for your last 3 years of tax returns. And so if your application is at least started in 2021, it may save you some time from getting your 2021 returns completed. And I know lots of businesses that don't file by April 15th. They file extension. And so that's going to hold up your process when you get into a new year. And the third-party fees are going to vary with WeBank and NMSDC, the ones here on this page. They are based on your revenue. And so those fees can range from $300 up to $1,200, depending on the revenue and the size of your business. And so that is going to be a fee that you will pay each year, and something that you're definitely going to need to put in on your budget. Dave, are we still good? You can hear me okay?
Yep, we're all good.
Okay. Okay. Here's some of the different set-asides for the federal government. I think some of it may be updated. It changes frequently. But when I say these are set aside, when you within your certification, they may have something for professional services, or maybe the government's wanting a diversity speaker to come out and help change the culture of their office or their leadership. And so when you see these numbers, and I'm going to show you the beta SAM and how to find these things, they basically they designate these different services, and it can be all different kinds of industry. It could be landscaping or catering or coaching. There's a ton of different opportunities that are set aside. And so that set aside means that if you are a woman-owned small business, they are allowing just WOSB business owners to respond. And so they're looking for that designation and those business owners to respond to those opportunities, so that they can grant the business and award the business to those specific groups. When you don't check for these things, and I'm going to show you how to look for those opportunities, and they don't get enough response, then the government says, okay, we're going to open it up to everyone, which is you've got to get in there and like I said, pay to play. But I'm going to show you some of those different tools a little bit later. Okay, betasam.gov has changed their platform several times. When you want to register yourself, you would start with sam.gov, and that's where you would receive the designations for woman-owned business or a minority-owned business. I put this slide in here because this is actually where you can find the contract opportunities, and you'll see that here in the drop down menu. And I don't have time to open it up and show. I do have a follow-up video, David, I can share with you guys on how to navigate just the betasam.gov and in itself. But it has like a drop down menu on the left side. You can put your NAICS codes in there, and it will show you, all these different opportunities. And so I'm sometimes like a squirrel, and I'll say, oh my gosh, I could spend all day in that system looking for different things for my clients. So just know this is here, and it's something that is national from the federal government, whether you do, you have the capacity to work just in Kentucky, or you're a regional business where, you're operating in 4 or 5 different states. I'll send a follow-up video on this so you guys can really dig in and learn it. It's definitely something you can't pick up on the first time. Mostly because they've updated the system, I think twice now in the last year, it seems like. But this is a resource. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. But once you get it and you start looking and researching and knowing how to find federal opportunities, it can be such a great resource. Talked about the Commonwealth of Kentucky a little bit. It meets your home state. And when I say home state, I mention that because a lot of my clients that are especially here in Kentucky get the state certification because they do business in Indiana. Now, Indiana has a law code in place, and they actually have a minority council that meets quarterly. And so their state is very intentional about their spend dollars in requiring at least their universities to report their diversity spend dollars quarterly. And, Kentucky doesn't have that anymore. I hope that, I think the administration now is just overwhelmed with COVID and so many other things. But if you operate in multiple states, and depending on who your client is, you have to be certified in your home state, and before you can, get certified in other states. So I mentioned this. Sometimes it's applicable to many people who, may be in Southern Indiana or, whatnot, since we're here on the bridge. So I just want to mention that. Another thing to mention with Kentucky, you do have to be in business for 1 year. So you do have to have 1 year of business tax return to be eligible. Louisville Metro is the same way. And but for the national certifications, WeBank and NMSDC and GLCC, they do not have a requirement on your revenue amount or size. None of these certifications are based on the size of your business. But the state and Louisville Metro, you do have to be in business a year. Now for WeBank and the national certifications, you just have to be you don't have to have 1 year of tax return. You just have to have the infrastructure and a book of business. And so that's probably why people get the national certifications quicker, because they want to jump into the certification. But I just want to mention that, some you do have to have 1 year of tax return for some of these. State of Indiana is the same way. All right, so the documents. Oh my gosh, it's so much. It's so much. I did not start the business to do people's paperwork. Just happened to be good at it. The first person who asked me to get them certified came to me. She said her finance team had failed for 3 years and she didn't know why she was being denied or how to fix it. She had a client asking her to be certified. So, she took me to lunch. I looked at her paperwork and I'm like, oh, okay. I was able to identify, like, you have to be consistent with the way you're presenting your business. So we ended up getting 6 different certifications and she was able to double her revenue with that client. And so we started this workshop because of her, my first client. And she said, people don't know how to navigate all of these different systems and they don't understand what all these documents are. So, I mean, if you've purchased a house, then, a lot of these documents you already have on hand. But the one thing that these entities aren't telling business owners is how to respond to something that is not applicable to their business. And so a lot of this stuff you probably have or is easy to get. But if you're a single member LLC and you file taxes as an S Corp, then the certification applications are going to flag you as a corporation because of the way you're filing your return. And so that triggers all these different documents that may not be applicable to you. So, and I wish they would change that, but just because you're an S Corp, filing as an S Corp doesn't mean that you're going to have bylaws or stock certificates or even company minutes or a board of directors. So for any of these documents that you see here, and this is not inclusive, this is a snapshot. There are still, excuse me, many other things that they ask for. But this is kind of the core of how to get you started. When you do see something that is not applicable to your business, you simply put on a document, in a Word document, put your name, the date, your company, and one sentence. This document is not applicable to my business. That's it. You have to list all these different documents. Now, when you make that template, you will have to upload it however many times. When I received my DBE certification, I literally uploaded the same document. This is not applicable to my business 24 times. So, funny story, but it's happened. You have to answer everything. You can't just leave something blank and expect to get through the different systems. So just keep that in mind, that just because it's a list of mandatory documents, it doesn't mean that everything applies to your business. And so I'll just say that certification can take up a lot of time and resources. But there's a lot of opportunities to maximize that certification. Like I said, usually I give my clients 3 months to give me their documents. And, before we even get to that point, I share the list of documents like, hey, if you don't have a birth certificate, you should order that now. When that comes in, call me back. But it's really to kind of keep you on track. So, 3 months to get your paperwork together, fill out all the applications, and then, it could take another 3 to 6 to 9 months, depending on which certification you're waiting on, to get completed. So it's very much a big task. And so when you're getting all those documents together, that's my mindset to say, just get everything you're eligible for, because as your business grows, or, opportunities come around, or you meet someone who knows someone, I'm always on the side to say, okay, whatever box you want to check, I've got it. And I think that's like sales 101, eliminate the no. So why certification? And I hope I've definitely conveyed this. Many corporations are having requirements now for tier 1 and tier 2 spend. My former corporate job was with the local women-owned, largest women-owned minority-owned business in Kentucky. They happen to be a prime. So prime and sub are kind of the same terms as tier 1, tier 2. So if you're tier 1, then you're being paid directly from the corporation. They happen to be a supplier to Ford. And so Ford says, we also want you to report to us where your spending is. And so, so then who's in their supply chain, right? So, a lot of people come that I work with, and they'll say, well, I can't do work for Ford. I don't want to do work for Walmart. Well, who's doing business with them that you can service, right? So that's where that subcontracting and tier 2 spend come in place. And I hope that kind of makes sense. So, certification is really a difference of being an overhead expense and being in a supplier diversity bucket of money. So these government and organizations, as I said, they're setting aside money, they're setting aside a goal for you to get access to, okay? Now, you may already be doing business with them. And then, like I said, this customer client that I had, she's like, I have a client, or I'm working for someone, one of my clients want me to be certified. So now she's no longer an overhead expense. She's now in this supplier diversity bucket of money, for which most companies don't care where they spend it. Some organizations, I'll say some, very few, will say, okay, we're going to spend X amount with women, X amount with minority, X amount with veterans, but they typically don't have it set up to where, it's so much in construction and it's so much in public professional services. Very few of them have it broken down into different categories. So, it's just sitting there. And many of them want to grow it. If they start small, like, 20% of the revenues or whatnot, and they don't spend it, or they don't have enough suppliers coming to them that are certified, then, it's going to stay there. So we have to spend it. We have to find out where that money is so that they'll keep putting more money in it. So I hope that makes sense. So you get certified and you get this piece of paper, and it's just kind of like a college degree. You spend all this time in college and you're like, I don't even want to be an accountant now. I want to work in retail. I always share with my clients how to leverage that certification. And I'm guilty. I've been certified now for almost 5 years. And I was doing things for my clients that I wasn't doing for myself. And so, with this COVID and everything, I was like, I've got to go get into more portals, and I need to do more outreach. And sometimes you have to really craft your value proposition and say, you have to know who you're asking to do business with. And so if I was targeting, MSD, and they're, posting for supplier diversity coordinator or something like that, or different program administrators, I could say, well, if you're posting for these positions all the time and you're growing your, your supplier diversity team, maybe you could outsource that part-time to a contractor that can help grow and, really build the program. So then when you want a full-time person, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you just have to craft your own, I'm never going to see an RFP for supplier diversity business and consulting. So, that's a conversation you guys can have with your business coaches, or, the SBDC is a great resource for that, to kind of stretch your brain a little bit to say, okay, who can you do business with? So develop a list of target organizations. I would make a spreadsheet. I also encourage and recommend my clients to create an email inbox just for certification and just for portals. So if you see, WBE at gotogirlforresults.com, MBE, if you're a woman minority business enterprise, MWBE, that has really been a great tool and a best practice for companies that I've worked with. If you're small, it's still kind of a designated area for you to grow with. And so, if you've got a virtual assistant or office manager or business development person, that's an inbox that doesn't have a name attached to it. And, it's just something that you're not going to lose opportunities to getting lost in your box. So I'm going to add that to my presentation the next time I do one. So also, if you say, I'd love to do business with LG&E or, Lexington, how do I get into the Lexington market? When you go to those websites, Lexington, Fayette County Urban Government, type into the search at the top and, put in diversity, or put in supplier diversity registration or supplier registration, some of these different keywords. And if that website does not return an area for that they talk about diversity, or have a landing page, or if it's not in their annual report, it's probably unlikely that that company has supplier diversity spend dollars for you. Now, it doesn't mean you can't, if you want to do business with them, reach out to them, send them your, capability statement and who you are. But it's a lot easier to communicate and try to get business, or at least establish a relationship, or a conference call with someone, an intro call, if those organizations have supplier diversity as part of their website and part of their language and part of their culture. So what is a capability statement? This is my capability statement, and this was actually designed from DBE. One of the perks of being certified as a disadvantaged business enterprise. People say all the time they want to argue with me and say, well, I have an about us page. These organizations want it to be called a capability statement. It tells them exactly what your NAICS codes are, your services. The Kentucky Procurement Technical Assistance Center is a very good resource as well to help you build a capability statement. They have workshops on it. They have great slides. Your core is your contact info, obviously. What's your value proposition? You can list your certifications. Some companies will build out their past performance and their core competencies. And some companies actually have several different capability statements based on who their target audience is, and maybe different industries that they want to grow their business. And I would just keep it one page. So if you make it in Word or PowerPoint, you can convert it to a PDF, which is the standard acceptance of most of these portals will accept a PDF. And it's something that's going to lock in your information that's harder for someone to edit or whatnot. So it's basically your business resume. That's all it is. And I have some clients that have a front and back page just because they're huge companies with a lot of services. But I would leave it at that. Just be very, very crisp and concise. And this is what it would look like. And if you Googled capability statement, there are tons and tons and tons out there to reference. And there's, like I said, a lot of resources here that, can kind of help you build that out. All right. So, part of your business development and outreach and how to leverage your certification, I've got some listed here. This isn't an exclusive list by any means. Your Kentucky Procurement Technical Assistance Center is a free resource that you can register. It's much like in conjunction with the SBDC. They work side by side with each other all the time. They do provide a free counselor for your business. And so the Kentucky PTAC is really more education about the federal government. They have workshops on how to teach you how to read a solicitation, decide whether, it's something that your business can do. They do, like I said, capability statements. And then they also, when you register, they will put your business listed into this statewide software, which, is another database, but it will notify you on opportunities within the state or however you, if it's regional or national, whatever you consult with your person with, your counselor, they will, you'll start to get all of these different solicitations. So again, that's why I always suggest creating another email for yourself. Because it's just going to be a good inbox to where, I've got several in my Outlook, and, you can just add them in there and it's all in one place. And there's so many different platforms right now on how to do that with Gmail and Zoho and Microsoft and all these other things. But, and I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that later. Most corporations, most companies are going to have a generic email address. Supplier diversity at. When you register in those portals, so you go to the Louisville Water Company or MSD, they'll have a link. You'll go to their main website. You'll type in supplier diversity. It'll show you where to register to do business with them. And so after you complete your registration, they're going to want you to upload your capability statement, your certifications, and then you'll get an email and say, thank you so much for registering with LG&E. And sometimes there's a person's name there. And so I would put that in your spreadsheet and say, okay, her name is, Vanessa Pennoyer, and she's a diversity manager at LG&E. So now you can, when you go to an event or whatnot, you can say to LG&E, hey, I've been registered in your portal and I got a message from Vanessa. Can I meet her? Who is she? You know what I mean? So it helps you kind of learn who's who, but then also having it in a spreadsheet. So, when you do see a solicitation or you see them in a networking event or whatever, you can start to educate yourself and say like, oh, hey, that's who that person is and whatnot. You can use LinkedIn. There's so many different social media platforms. If you have a marketing team that's doing that type of stuff for you, you may have someone that's also following the companies, your target list. You also want to try to find them on LinkedIn, go through the spreadsheet, see who has a portal, see who has webinars on how to do business with them. I know LG&E does. They have a whole supplier diversity university on how to do business with them. And, just prepare an email. When I register in a portal and I'll get a generic reply, I always follow up with them and say, hey, here's my capability statement. Would you be kind enough to just reply and tell me if there's any opportunities? And it may take a few weeks, but they will respond. And some companies like, Louisville Metro has a procurement website, and it will show you expired contracts. It will show you any upcoming opportunities that's left in the budget this year. And so, you can really start to do your homework and research and try to find out if that company even outsources your services. I had a client that really wanted to work with Anthem, and they were a employment agency. And, when I met Terry Turner and Indy at one conference, I said, hey, do you guys need temporary employees, customer service, things like that? And he's like, no, we don't outsource that at all. So, that client wanted to do business with someone that didn't outsource her services. So it is so much homework and a lot of things to navigate. But it's important because, every time you have a conversation with someone, they're going to want you to know everything about them. And on the flip side of the advocacy, I always tell supplier diversity managers, I'm like, we only know as much as you put on your website. So, if you can't Google something and get instant gratification, then you know what? It doesn't exist, right? So, they have to do a better job at letting people know what kind of commodities they do outsource, and how to get access to those things. So my takeaway here is to connect. Even clients, I've had clients from 500,000 in revenue to 22 million. And I still get them connected with Kentucky PTAC and the SBDC. There's a lot of businesses that, don't have the infrastructure or startups. And, certification is a tool that's going to bring value to your business. And it's not instant gratification. So, there's always this saying, death by Walmart. I create candles and everybody loves my candles. I sell out at all my festivals, and now I'd love to sell it to Walmart. Well, your profit margin on your candles at a festival, where you spent $300 for the weekend in a tent, you may be getting $20 a piece. And then Walmart's going to say, if we're going to put it in 5,000 stores, we need your price to be $9.99. You know what I'm saying? That's going to cut your margin, your profit margin, and it might, hurt the capacity of, can you fulfill that type of order? And so, when you're thinking about where do you want to be in 5 years, where do you want to be in 10 years, which I hate that question, by the way, but it's very good for this workshop. The SBDC can help you think through that. I'm not the business that wants to have a brick and mortar and have 20 employees. I like making the impact that I do for my clients myself and, the help that I do have. But if you're that business that wants to sell to Walmart, and you've got, a little shop that you're manufacturing your candles in, and you want to be Walmart, you want to go to Walgreens, and you want to do all these things, it's a whole lot more to think about. And, like I said, SBDC is very good for that. There's tons of other coaches and resources you can pay for that will help you, kind of give that strategic plan for yourself. So I always say too, careful what you wish for, because if you do your certification right and you do get that opportunity, you do need a team to kind of help talk through that and make sure that that's going to be the right opportunity for you, that you're going to be able to sustain. So I will say that as well. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. I will stop sharing and go back to David, because I do see some chat questions in here now. Hopefully I didn't go too fast.
No, that was a lot, but that was great. So I guess let me just ask you this question just to kind of clarify. And while I'm doing that, if you folks out there, if you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll talk to Vanessa about that. But so it sounds like to me that before you even start looking or going through the certification process, you need to kind of think of what your strategy is for the certification, right? Can you just kind of run through that quickly a little bit again, just to kind of reinforce that?
Yeah, I've had some clients say here recently, it was a good time for them to really look at their business, because they had been getting business through referrals, and much like myself, a lot of word of mouth and referrals. And it is very much B2B. So I give an example. Let's say you're a landscaping company and you've got all these residential yards that's, keeping you busy or whatnot, which is B2C, right? Now, if you were to certify your business, now you could be eligible for a contract with McDonald's, to where you have one contract doing 12 locations within your region, right?
Mhm.
In an annual contract where, you're not chasing the residential yards anymore. Now, you can go to McDonald's and, get a contract. This is just like with the schools too. JCPS is a great opportunity for all the schools that they have. If you're doing landscaping, you can get one contract and, really grow your business. But it's very much B2B. Sometimes people don't, like I said, have their birth certificate in place. You go to find that. I mean, that could take a long time to get that sort of thing, or they don't know what a profit and loss statement is or a balance sheet. They're not using a QuickBooks software to get those things. So, when you start having these conversations, they're like, oh, I'm gonna have to pay my CPA to prepare those things, which they should, as a business owner, at least know what they look like. And you know what I mean? Not everybody's got a master's degree in finance, we're taking all those classes in school. There's like, oh, I'll outsource that to a CPA. And then when you're going through this process, it's like, oh, you should understand what these numbers are and why these documents are good for your, good to have for your business.
Yeah. And you mentioned that it's not like a quick fix or a quick way to get sales. I mean, on average, how long does it take someone, once they're certified, to maybe, get their first contract if they're pretty diligent in it?
So I will use myself as an example. I've been certified now, been in business since 17, and I'm just now having conversations. I've had conversations with Bath and Body Works, with Facebook, Morgan Stanley. And it's because I had to draft an email and say, this is what value I could bring to your supplier diversity program. You'll have people say, it took me 10 years to get into Fifth Third. I'm not one that's going to chase Fifth Third or any company for 10 years. You know what I mean? But it can take up that long. Now I had one client that certified. We got awarded a contract, and she actually declined it because, one, she didn't think she was going to get it, and she didn't want her current workload to suffer, and she didn't have the time to bring on the people to train to bring on this other contract, which is devastating. It's devastating. It's like, you wanted this, we worked 3 months on this RFP, now you don't want it. So yeah, it's digging deep. It really is kind of digging deep to what do you want and where do you want to go. And then finding the resources that's going to talk through all these tough conversations with you.
Mhm.
Yeah. I see Sharita on here. Hey, Sharita.
Yeah, she
I
said
mentioned
that.
Lexington, so I see her comment about that.
Yeah, yeah. You were talking earlier about set aside opportunities. Is that a good place to kind of start from a research standpoint? Where look to see how you would fit in there and whether you're a good fit with some of the set asides.
I think when I have conversations and I interview a client, I'll play around and pull a report in the beta SAM so that they can see that their services is outsourced. And the federal government's just easy because, it's that database.
Yeah.
But it's good for them. They start reading those solicitations and they'll say, oh yeah, that's perfect. If it's a leadership training or whatnot. But then they don't really understand all the other terms that go along with that contract. And so that's why I send people back to Kentucky PTAC because a lot of these solicitations and proposals can be very, very complicated. And we don't know, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's fun to kind of show people like, yes, this is out there, because it's like, oh, I've never seen this, or they always say, I've gotten federal certification, I've never gotten anything. We have to go into the system and tell it how to find you. That's where that follow-up business development piece is. It's not so much to be in a database. And then with Louisville Metro, anything that's public has an open record request. And so I'll tell people to go to the procurement site for Louisville Metro and request an open record for an awarded contract. And then they could read through that and see what the budget is and, what was awarded. And they can actually read what a good proposal looks like,
Mm-hmm.
And start really kind of breaking it apart of how to respond to things. And that's the tough part.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions, and we're at the top of the hour. So Vanessa, I want to really thank you. This has been awesome today. I learned a ton of stuff, and so everyone out there will be sending you a replay here later on this afternoon, and we'll include the slides. And Vanessa, if you want to send us a link to your other video, we'll share that as well.
Hey, Dave, we do have one question that's come in.
Oh, did I? Oh, yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Thank you, Janet. Certification better for specific industries. I'm in food and hospitality, and I'm not sure if it's a good fit.
So food, if you're catering, there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of opportunities. Especially now, organizations don't want their employees to leave and go to a restaurant. They want to keep them there because they're more productive. So yes, catering, absolutely. Hospitality, a lot of trade shows and conferences will hire an outside company to, facilitate the meetings and the trade shows or speakers or logistics. I mean, that's outsourced all the time. I know you've got to stop, but my last thing for everyone to remember is, you're trying to get into a space of supplier diversity. You should also be intentional about your own diversity spend and who your suppliers are, and begin to start tracking who you're doing business with, because it will come in play at some point down the road. Your top 5 is like marketing, bookkeeping, an attorney. You know what I'm saying? Even if you only have 5 suppliers, someone who prints your business cards, is it a certified business?
Mm-hmm.
So also start keeping track, because you're never too small to be intentional about who you're doing business with locally. And also, hey, are you certified? So that you can start to align your values with the values of those companies you're trying to get into.
That's a great tip. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah, we all have to be intentional.
Well, Vanessa, thank you so much. This has been spectacular, and I think everybody got a lot out of it today, and I think you'll be here.
I hope so.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for joining us on another Toolkit Tuesday. Again, I'm Dave Etkin here at the Louisville Small Business Development Center. here in Louisville, Kentucky. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.